There's always those movies that come on TV, and no matter how many times you've seen them, you can't resist watching just a little bit of it, or maybe all of it. These are the 10 most rewatchable movies. My number 10 is Dead Poets Society, the 1989 drama starring Robin Williams and a young Robert Sean Leonard and Ethan Hawke. This inspirational feel-good movie shows the acting range of Robin Williams, takes us back to our youth no matter what age you are, where the world was magical and without limitation. It's a case of not understanding as youth that it does get better. But at the same time, some things will never change. I get a craving to watch this movie every couple of years, especially in the fall, when a little bit of all of us are envious of the youth who are off for another year of adventure. Oh, Captain, my Captain, this movie brought the Latin expression carpe diem to the mainstream. I rank this movie a 10 out of 10. On imdb.com, it's an 8.1 out of 10 and the 250th movie of all time. I've probably seen this one 6 or 7 times. Fun fact, originally Liam Neeson had won the role of Keating before a change of direction brought in Robin Williams. To me, this movie is a bit of a swan song to the 80s. Again, although set in the 50s. Perhaps the last of the great 80s movies and an end of our innocence. Number 9, Halloween. Rewind 11 years to 1978 in a low-budget horror film from John Carpenter, Halloween. Of course, this starred a relative newcomer, Jamie Lee Curtis, but also an old veteran, Donald Pleasance. I first saw this movie in a small-town theater where my parents and aunt dropped us kids off to watch it. They went across the street to the pub to drink. I was 10 years old, and it scared the crap out of us. This remains my favorite horror movie of all time. I have a tradition of PVRing this movie off of TV every year when it runs in October, and if it's still there by mid-November, I delete it. So I've seen this one at least 6 or 8 times. I give it a 9 out of 10 rating, and on imdb.com it gets a 7.8 rating. Fun fact, while there's actual no place called Haddonfield, Illinois, it was named after another real town, Haddonfield, New Jersey, where the movie's producer, Deborah Hill, was born. Number 8. Okay, this is my cheat on the list. I actually originally had Rudy on the list at number 10, the 1993 feel-good sports movie with Sean Astin. But really, if that movie was on TV, which it is a lot, I wouldn't bother to watch it again. I think it's done, although I'm sure I've seen it a few times. So I would give an honorable mention to Rudy, as well as to Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze and Real Genius with Val Kilmer, maybe even Top Gun with Tom Cruise. Anyway, now on to the actual selection. Number 8, my cheat, John Hughes. Instead of picking one particular movie, I'll just list all the teen movies I love from John Hughes: Weird Science, Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. As pretty much all the teen movies, I've stayed away from other offerings such as Home Alone and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Oh yeah, and speaking of Home Alone, it and Die Hard did not make the list only because they are Christmas movies, damn it. Number 7, The Rookie. The other reason I dropped Rudy from the list was that I was a bit sports movie heavy, with 3, so only 2 made the cut. This Rookie is the 2002 baseball drama starring Dennis Quaid as Jimmy Morris, based on a true story of a washed-up ball player who at the ripe age of 39 makes a comeback and ends up making the major leagues with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. I've probably seen this movie at least 5 times, wouldn't hesitate to watch it again. There are some family scenes which you can skip on your multiple repeat occasions, but sitting through the whole thing is the best way to deliver the full emotional punch. I rated this movie a 9 out of 10, while over on imdb.com is sitting at only a 6.9. There's no accounting for taste. This movie saw a young Jay Hernandez play one of the high school baseball players. 2 years later, he would play Brian Chavez in the movie version of Friday Night Lights. He currently plays the title role in the Magnum P.I. reboot. Number 6, Rock of Ages. The 2012 musical with an ensemble cast that included Tom Cruise, Juliana Hough, Diego Boneta, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Bryan Cranston. Tremendous jobs by Alec Baldwin and Russell Brand, and even Kevin Nash as a bodyguard. I saw this movie in the theater and thought it would be a lot of fun, but underestimated just how much unadulterated 80s fun it would really be. Although it is only 8 years old, I've probably seen this movie at least 5 times. I want to give a quick shout out to another musical, Grease, which really could have made this list too, as I've seen it many, many times, and it's also a lot of fun. Overall, though, Rock of Ages has way better music, and I would watch it alone, whereas I would never sit down and watch Grease alone. I just love the soundtrack for Rock of Ages, both the soundtrack versions and the originals. I would love to see it as a Broadway play sometime. I can't believe they haven't done a sequel. For all my love, I only rated this movie a 9 out of 10. I should seriously rethink that. Well, it has a lowly rating of 5.9 over at imdb.com. Number 5, Black Hawk Down. The 2001 war movie is my favorite ensemble cast movie and favorite war movie. It's also an excellent book by Mark Bowden. Mark is one of my favorite nonfiction authors, who's also written excellent books on Pablo Escobar, Vietnam, and the Iran hostage crisis. Like I said, the cast is fantastic. There's so much going on, it makes this movie easy to rewatch time and again. I've probably seen it at least 6 times. Another great war movie that didn't quite make the list was We Were Soldiers, starring Mel Gibson and Sam Elliott. In Black Hawk Down, in addition to Ewan McGregor and Josh Hartnett, I thought the performances of Eric Bana as Hoot and Sam Shepard as Garrison really stood out. The movie takes place in Somalia, is based on a true story, and really shows the chaos of modern warfare. I rated this movie a 10 out of 10, and on imdb.com it has a 7.7 rating. Number 4, Slapshot, the 1977 Paul Newman flick, my favorite sports movie of all time and my favorite comedy of all time. The wisecracks work multiple times, and it's like visiting your dysfunctional friends every time you put it on. The Hanson brothers are, of course, famous for their over-the-top antics, but it's some of the other more understated characters like Killer Carlson that are great on the rewatches. I'm sure I've seen this one 8 or 10 times, a few of those probably on censored television. I rated this movie a 10 out of 10, but over on imdb.com it only gets a 7.3 out of 10. Fun fact that Bruce Boudreau and former Winnipeg Jets coach Claude Noel had roles in this movie as extra hockey players.
All bad. Bad. You do that, you go to the box, 2 minutes by yourself, and you feel shame, and then you get free.
Number 3, Big Lebowski. 1998 comedy from the Coen brothers with a fantastic cast of Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, and Steve Buscemi. Really didn't think I would like this movie when a guy from work described it to me and suggested it, and I was wrong. So even though I say Slapshot is my favorite comedy, this is probably the most rewatchable. Now, there are some scenes like the dream sequences and the painting scenes that I would skip. Most of the scenes are great. The coffee can spreading the ashes of Donnie makes me start to laugh long before the payoff. I ranked it as a 9 out of 10 over at imdb.com, where it gets an 8.1 out of 10, and is the 188th ranked movie of all time.
Were you listening to the dude's story?
I was bowling.
So you have no frame of reference here, Donnie. You're like a child who wanders into the middle of a movie.
I like your style, dude.
Number 2, Star Wars, or Star Wars A New Hope, I suppose. 1977, a very good year for movies. Yes, I remember standing in line at the theater to see it so long that I got into the showing after the one we went to see. I'm sure with re-releases, I've seen this in the theaters 4 or 5 times and probably 15 or 20 times altogether. Maybe the best opening scene in movie history drags you right into it from the start with the unveiling of Darth Vader. I gave this movie a 10 out of 10, and over at imdb.com it's an 8.6 and the 25th ranked movie of all time. Number 1, the most rewatchable movie of all time, Platoon. 1986, great cast. Normally I'm not a big Charlie Sheen fan, but he's perfect in this movie. Sometimes his silence and facial expressions say it all. Now, Tom Berenger and Willem Dafoe are also excellent, and John McGinley and Kevin Dillon are perfect in this movie. This is not one of my favorite, say, 20 or 30 movies of all time, but when this is on TV, it just sucks you in, whether it's the whole movie or just a few scenes. Kevin Dillon and McGinley in the dance mother effer dance is one of the most compelling scenes ever in a movie. I give this one a 9 out of 10, and it gets an 8.1 out of 10 over at imdb.com and is ranked as the number 215th best movie of all time. As I mentioned, I would actually say Black Hawk Down is my favorite war movie of all time, but Platoon is the most rewatchable war movie and most rewatchable movie of all time. That's it. That's my top 10 rewatchable movies. And of course, it's just my opinion. Please leave comments below and your suggestions. Which movies do you find yourself rewatching over and over again, even if it's just in bits and pieces?